Am I really still on Earth? You know, the second you step foot into the landscapes we're going to explore today, that is the exact question that's going to be running through your mind. Hey there, fellow explorers, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide today because, well, we're unpacking the geographical marvels of a place that literally defies logic at every single turn. So pack your bags and prep your gear because we are journeying into some of the most isolated, extreme, and straight-up extraterrestrial terrains our planet has to offer. Today, we're embarking on a visual expedition to Yemen. Consider this your ultimate explorer's guide to impossible landscapes. We're going to look at how human beings not only survived, but totally thrived in environments that seem completely inhospitable. And then we're going to travel to an isolated island ecosystem that looks like it was ripped straight out of a sci-fi novel. If you've ever wanted to map the unmappable, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our itinerary for today's expedition. First up, we're going deep into the desert canyons. Then, we'll uncover the riches of the mountain valleys before ascending to Sana'a, the cloud capital. From there, we chart a course to Socotra, the alien island. And finally, we'll wrap up where desert meets ocean.
All right, stop number 1, deep into the desert canyons, surviving Wadi Hadramawt. Let's go.
I want you to imagine traveling for hundreds of kilometers deep into a massive valley system carved right out of the unforgiving Arabian desert. To the untrained eye, it looks completely dead, just inhospitable rock. But hidden within these towering canyon walls are these incredible oasis valleys where life actually found a way to flourish. It's absolutely fascinating. See, the people who settled here, they couldn't just build right on the valley floor. Why? Because of violent, sudden flash floods that would just roar through those dry riverbeds without warning. So what did they do? Well, they built their homes tightly packed into the steep, rocky slopes above the danger zone. By tapping into secret underground water sources and cultivating date palms, they managed to create these highly isolated desert settlements that almost blend invisibly right into the canyon rock itself. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate clash between a lethal environment and human genius. Just contrast the harsh reality of this canyon, intense desert heat, dry riverbeds, practically zero flatland, with Shibam's incredible architectural answer. Because they were totally boxed in by defensive walls and flood zones, they literally couldn't build outward, so they built upward. Shibam is literally the world's first skyscraper city, with towers rising a massive 30 meters into the sky. And here is the most mind-blowing part. They are built entirely out of mud bricks. No steel, no concrete, just mud. For centuries, generations of families have constantly restored these mud towers to keep them from dissolving in the rain, pushing the absolute limits of human ingenuity. Moving right along to stop number 2, riches of the mountain valleys. Let's look at the origins of Arabia Felix. So leaving those bone-dry canyons behind, you might naturally assume this rugged highland region was always isolated and, well, poor. But historically, the exact opposite is true. This harsh environment actually generated massive global wealth. Check out this timeline. 3,000 years ago, they built the Great Dam of Marib, an absolute engineering marvel that captured seasonal floods and literally turned the desert into lush farmland. This sustained advanced ancient civilizations that thrived on the incense route, trading priceless frankincense and myrrh. I mean, those are some of the most valuable commodities on Earth back then. The Romans were actually so blown away by this immense wealth, they named the region Arabia Felix, which translates to Fortunate Arabia. And it didn't stop there. Centuries later, the port of Mocha dominated global coffee exports for 200 straight years. Yep, the word mocha at your local coffee shop, it comes directly from this very port in Yemen. To really understand how this agriculture was even possible, I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that you are a local resident of one of these high mountain villages. Imagine standing with me, looking out from my stone house perched right on the cliff edge. The mountainside drops away sharply, hundreds of feet straight down beneath our feet. For generations, my ancestors didn't just accept this steep, unyielding rock. No, with our own bare hands, we carved thousands of ancient stone retaining walls right into the sheer slopes. We built these giant cascading terraces to catch every single drop of fleeting rainfall. Let me tell you, it is backbreaking work to maintain them, but it's the only way our prized coffee and crops can survive up here in the clouds. We literally built our farmlands out of the sky. All right, taking a deep breath of that mountain air, we hit stop number 3, Sana'a, the cloud capital, sitting at 2,200 meters above sea level. Continuing our ascent, we reach the historic heart of the country, which actually sits as one of the highest capital cities in the entire world. Now, the absolutely crucial point I want you to take away is this number right here, 2,000. That is how many years Sana'a has been continuously inhabited. 2 millennia. It is one of the oldest cities on the globe. We aren't just looking at ancient, dusty ruins here. We are looking at a living, breathing tradition of urban high-rise living that existed way, way before modern apartment blocks were ever even conceived.
Visitors often compare Sana'a to a mythical city straight out of the 1001 Nights folktales, and honestly, it's so easy to see why. The streets are densely lined with these towering, dark brick multi-story homes, and at night, they just glow with these stunning, colorful stained glass windows called kamaria, which are all surrounded by these incredibly intricate white gypsum patterns. It's almost like gingerbread. And fun fact, the more complex the white patterns on the outside, the wealthier the family living inside. But what I absolutely love most about this is that these aren't palaces built for out-of-touch kings. These grand, beautiful tower houses were built for ordinary, everyday families.
Let's move to and see how this builds to the ultimate expression of Yemen's mountain architecture. Just look at this. This is Dar al-Hajar. It literally translates to the rock palace. I mean, it seriously looks like it was dropped directly from the sky, perfectly balancing on the summit of this massive, towering stone outcrop in Wadi Dar. It's an architectural marvel that seems to completely defy gravity. It perfectly demonstrates that deep, unshakable connection between the people of Yemen and their dramatic, rugged landscapes. Okay, gear up. Stop number 4, Socotra, the alien island, also known as the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean. Now, explorers, it is time to dramatically shift our journey. Leaving the mainland completely behind, we are traveling far, far out into the Indian Ocean, to a place totally disconnected from the rest of the world. Separated from Africa and Arabia for literally millions of years, Socotra evolved entirely on its own. And I want you to look right at this chart to see just how isolated it is. A massive 33% of its plant species are endemic. That means 1/3 of the plant life you see on this island exists nowhere else on Earth. Zero, nada, nowhere. That is exactly why it's widely known as the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the island's most famous and ancient export, dragon's blood. This is a thick, deep crimson resin that literally bleeds out from beneath the bark of the iconic dragon blood tree whenever it gets cut. In the ancient world, this red sap was just incredibly prized. They used it as a medicine, they burned it as a fragrant incense, they used it as a rich dye, and it was even used in sacred ritual offerings. In fact, wild legends actually circulated back then that the crimson resin flowing from these alien-looking trees was the literal, actual blood of dragons. And let me tell you, the flora only gets weirder and more wonderful from there. Let's look at some of these absolutely alien adaptations. First, those dragon blood trees, they have these giant umbrella-shaped canopies specifically designed to capture fleeting fog and mist in a totally water-starved environment. It gives them the bizarre silhouette of giant flying saucers just hovering over the barren limestone terrain. Then, you have the bottle tree, also known as the desert rose. Its trunk is incredibly swollen and massive, acting literally like a giant water bottle to help the plant survive long, brutal droughts. I kid you not, it looks exactly like an elephant's leg sprouting vivid pink blossoms. And we definitely can't forget the rare Socotran aloe, a medicinal plant so highly prized that legend says Alexander the Great himself sought to conquer the island just to secure its supply for his empire. This island was just so surreal, and its exports so highly valued, that it bred some seriously wild myths among early global explorers. Even Marco Polo, the famous Venetian merchant himself, wrote about Socotra. He described the island's inhabitants as these powerful magicians who were fully capable of controlling the winds and the storms. While that's obviously a bit of an exaggeration, it perfectly captures just how mysterious, intimidating, and completely otherworldly this island appeared to outsiders. Finally, we reach our last destination, stop number 5, where desert meets ocean, the surreal coastlines of Socotra. We've hiked through the alien forests, and now we are descending to the final leg of our expedition. As you step down to the shore at Dwa Lagoon, you'll find these shallow, brilliant turquoise waters gently swirling around pure white sandbanks. The ocean currents create these mesmerizing, constantly shifting patterns that look exactly like abstract artwork painted by nature itself. The visual contrast between the glowing turquoise lagoon, the rugged, dark mountains looming behind it, and the deep sapphire blue of the Arabian Sea beyond, it is simply breathtaking. And if you travel just a bit further east, you hit Archer. This is an incredibly rare geographic phenomenon. Massive, towering white sand dunes rise directly from the edge of the sea. You have pure, unadulterated desert colliding head-on with the ocean, as these giant mountains of sand plunge straight into the sapphire waters of the Indian Ocean. It's just this totally surreal collision of two entirely different worlds. From 30-meter mud brick skyscrapers and deep, flood-prone desert canyons, to lush mountain terraces practically carved into the clouds, to an isolated island of dragon's blood and magical sand dunes, Yemen proves that our planet is far wilder and far more resilient than we often think. It leaves us with one incredibly exciting question. In a world that so often feels fully mapped, what other alien landscapes are out there just waiting to be explored? Thank you so much for joining me on this expedition today. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.